The betrayal at the grand opening. They say betrayal cuts deepest when it's public, when the person you trusted most turns your love into a performance for strangers. My name is Sophia Reed. I'm 38 years old, and what happened to me at my husband's clinic opening was more than humiliation. It was the spark that ignited his downfall. The night of the gala was supposed to be Daniel's crowning achievement. A gleaming private medical center in downtown Boston, polished marble floors, champagne glasses, clinking under chandeliers, and a guest list packed with surgeons, investors, and hospital administrators. I had helped organize the event down to the flower arrangements, proud that years of sacrifices were finally bearing fruit. Daniel stepped up to the microphone in his tailored suit, the kind of outfit he once said we couldn't afford when I asked to replace a torn winter coat. The crowd hushed. He lifted his glass and smiled, the charming, confident smile that had always convinced people he was destined for greatness. "I want to thank you all for coming tonight," he began, his voice smooth, carrying easily across the room. "This clinic represents years of hard work, long nights, and faith in a dream." He gestured to me, standing just a few feet away, smiling politely. And of course, none of this would have been possible without Sophia, my wife. She's been supportive. His pause made the word sting like an insult disguised as praise. But as with all things, life moves forward. Some partners are for a season, others are for a lifetime. A ripple of awkward laughter moved through the room. My stomach knotted. I glanced at him, confused, waiting for the point. Daniel pulled an envelope from his breast pocket and held it aloft like a magician, revealing a trick. "So tonight, along with celebrating this clinic's beginning, I'm also celebrating a new chapter in my personal life." He handed the envelope toward me. "These are divorce papers. Sophia has been my starter wife, but now it's time for the real thing." The room erupted, some with gasps, others with nervous chuckles, and a few bold voices actually clapping. My ears rang. In front of 100 colleagues, donors, and strangers, he had reduced our marriage of 12 years to a punchline. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I simply accepted the envelope with steady hands, though my insides trembled. Daniel smirked, as if expecting me to storm out in hysterics. But I didn't. I placed the papers carefully into my clutch, turned, and walked through the glittering lobby toward the exit. Behind me, I heard someone whisper, "Brutal, but smart." Another voice chimed, "She'll be fine. He's upgrading." That night, the humiliation burned through me like acid. Yet beneath the burn, something colder took root, a resolve sharper than any scalpel Daniel had ever held. He thought he had discarded me like a stepping stone. What he didn't understand was that I wasn't just part of his past. I was the very foundation of his empire. And when you rip away the foundation, everything built on top comes crashing down. When I left the clinic that night, I didn't drive home right away. I sat in my car under the city lights, staring at the envelope in my lap. Divorce papers. My life reduced to a prop in Daniel's performance. But instead of tears, a cold clarity settled over me. Daniel believed I was expendable. He thought this clinic was his accomplishment alone. The truth? Without me, it wouldn't even exist. 12 years earlier, Daniel had been a gifted but broke medical resident, buried in student loans, with dreams far bigger than his bank account. His credit score was abysmal, his debts staggering. When he proposed, he promised we'd rise together. And I believed him. It started small. Just until residency ends, he said, asking me to co-sign a loan for a used car so he could commute to the hospital. I agreed. Then came another loan for exam prep courses, then the credit line for medical conferences in Chicago and San Francisco. Networking opportunities, he called them. After residency, when he announced he wanted to open his own clinic instead of joining a group practice, banks laughed at his loan applications. Too risky, they said. Too much debt. That's when Daniel turned to me. I was the steady one, working in healthcare administration, pulling in a reliable salary with pristine credit. My record unlocked doors his never could. Just co-sign this one, he pleaded, spreading business plans across our dining table. Once the clinic is up and running, I'll refinance everything in my name. You'll be free and clear, I signed. Again and again. Medical equipment, my signature, lease on the building, my guarantee, malpractice insurance premiums, charged to a card in my name. Even the electronic health record system and licensing fees rested on my credit. I kept meticulous records, spreadsheets tracking every loan, every guarantee. $271,000 tied directly to me. I wasn't just his wife. I was the scaffolding propping up his entire career. And what was my reward? To be mocked as a starter wife in front of his colleagues. By the time I pulled into our driveway that night, my humiliation had hardened into strategy. Daniel thought he had humiliated me beyond repair. What he didn't realize was that every thread of his shiny new empire was woven through my name, my credit, my financial reputation, and threads can be pulled. I poured myself a glass of wine, spread out my records, and started making calls. Not to divorce attorneys, not yet. First, I called Marlene, my longtime financial advisor. Marlene, I said, my voice steady. I need you to review every document I've ever signed for Daniel's clinic. Every guarantee, every cosign, every liability with my name on it. And I want to know my options for withdrawal. She was silent for a moment. Sophia, are you telling me what I think you're telling me? I'm telling you, I said, staring at the signed divorce papers on the counter, that my husband served me in front of 200 people tonight. And I'm not walking away empty-handed. Marlene exhaled slowly. All right. Send me everything. We'll start at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Next, I called our banker, then our insurance representative. By midnight, I had a map of the entire clinic's financial skeleton, and here's what Daniel, the brilliant doctor, had never bothered to read. Most of the agreements included clauses allowing me to withdraw as guarantor with 30 days' notice. Some could even be terminated immediately upon material change in personal circumstances. A divorce was exactly that. So while Daniel was shaking hands with donors and basking in his performance, I was drafting letters, withdrawal notices, termination clauses, cancellation requests, each one legally airtight, each one designed to pull a brick from the wall he thought was indestructible. By sunrise, 17 letters sat neatly stacked on my kitchen table. I sealed them, marked them for certified delivery, and slid them into my briefcase. Daniel wanted a new chapter. He was about to get one. But not the story he thought he was writing. Because in medicine, as in life, you can't amputate the foundation and expect the body to survive. And I was ready to show him just how quickly a dream can bleed out. The Monday after the gala, my letters were already in motion. By Tuesday afternoon, The phone started ringing. "Mrs. Reed?" The bank representative said crisply. "We received your withdrawal notice on the building loan. Without your guarantee, your husband will need to provide alternative collateral within 30 days or face foreclosure proceedings." That was just the beginning. By Wednesday, the medical equipment company had sent a demand. Without my guarantee, the outstanding balance of $83,000 had to be repaid in full, or the clinic's MRI, ultrasound machines, and surgical equipment would be repossessed. Thursday brought the real blow. Daniel's malpractice insurance, the policy that allowed him to legally practice medicine, was terminated effective immediately. My signature had been the guarantor. Without it, he was exposed. Without insurance, the clinic couldn't operate another day. By Friday, Daniel was unraveling. My phone buzzed non-stop with his calls. I ignored them until I'd counted 57 missed attempts. Finally, I answered, my voice calm. "Sophia, what the hell are you doing?" he demanded, his polished charm stripped away, leaving only panic. "I'm simply withdrawing my financial support from someone who publicly declared he no longer wants me in his life," I said evenly. "This isn't about us. This is about my clinic, about patients. You can't destroy my career because your feelings are hurt." I almost laughed. "My feelings? Daniel, you stood in front of 200 people and called me your starter wife. You made me into a spectacle. You humiliated me. But this isn't about feelings. This is about consequences. You're being vindictive," he spat. "No," I replied, "I'm being fair. You wanted independence. Now you have it. Stand on your own name, on your own credit, on your own foundation." He cursed, then begged, then threatened. None of it mattered. The clinic that had stood gleaming a week earlier was crumbling, brick by brick, under the weight of contracts he had never understood, and I had always carried. By the following Monday, Daniel's world had collapsed. The bank's foreclosure notice hung over the clinic doors. His staff, unpaid, began quitting. Patients, alarmed by news of the insurance cancellation, cancelled appointments. Investors whispered about mismanagement, reputations soured, and colleagues distanced themselves. And then, in a twist of irony, Daniel came to my office. He looked nothing like the man who had raised a champagne glass under glittering lights. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loose, his eyes hollow from sleepless nights. He stood in the doorway of my office at the hospital where I still worked in administration. "Sophia, please," he said, voice cracking. "You've made your point. The clinic is falling apart. My reputation is ruined. Patients are suffering. I'm begging you, stop this before it goes too far." I gestured toward the chair across from my desk, the same kind of chair where I had once sat, listening to him spin dreams about success built on my name. "You know what's interesting, Daniel?" I said quietly. "When you begged me to co-sign your loans, you said you just needed someone to believe in you until you could believe in yourself. And I did. I believed so much that I backed every loan, every lease, every piece of equipment. I believed with my credit, my income, my reputation, over $250,000 worth of belief." Tears welled in his eyes. "I know. And I'm grateful." "No," I said firmly, "you're not. Because gratitude would have meant honoring the foundation we built together. Instead, you stood in front of your peers and discarded me like a used glove. You thought you could rise higher by cutting me down. But here's the truth, Daniel. Success built on borrowed ground isn't success. It's dependency. And when that ground is pulled away, everything collapses. He dropped his gaze, defeated. What do you want me to do? I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence linger before answering. I don't want anything from you. I already have what I need. The knowledge that you'll never again mistake cruelty for power. You ended our marriage in front of a crowd. I ended your empire with a pen. He swallowed hard, stood slowly, and left without another word. 3 months later, Daniel's clinic was shuttered, its marble lobby replaced by a "for lease" sign. Word spread quickly in the medical community. The brilliant doctor, who thought he didn't need anyone, had lost everything because he underestimated the one person who had given him everything. As for me, I stayed in my role at the hospital. My credit was intact, my future unburdened, and my evenings, for the first time in years, were peaceful. I no longer shared a house with someone who saw me as a stepping stone. Sometimes I drive past the building that once bore Daniel's name in polished silver letters.
Now it sits empty, a hollow shell of ambition, and I smile. Not because I wanted his failure, but because I reclaimed my worth. Daniel thought discarding me would set him free. Instead, it revealed the truth. He was never the architect of his success. I was. And when the architect walks away, the walls always fall. So if you've ever been underestimated, mocked, or treated as expendable, remember this. Sometimes the person who tries to bury you is the same one who hands you the shovel to dig your way to freedom. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to Tales Between Time for more stories that cut deep and stay with you.